Habari Gani, everyone, and Jumbo. Hello and welcome to tonight's presentation. Welcome back for night 3 of Kwanzaa, a modern celebration for 2025. We are in night 3, and it is the night that we lift up Ujima. So we are going to light our candles. The first for Umoja, which means unity. The second for Kujichagulia, which we just talked about last night, which is self-determination, and the third one for Ujima. Tonight's conversation is brought to you by Collective Work and Responsibility. And tonight's guest is someone who uplifts that in all the ways imaginable. Y'all, I have with me my dear friend, community leader, educator, life and health insurance agent, and member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Y'all say hey to my friend Kendle Sykes-Suber. Hey Kendle.
Hey y'all. Hey y'all.
Happy Kwanzaa, girl.
Happy Kwanzaa.
I am so excited that you're here to talk with us for a little bit tonight. We have been having some amazing conversations, and I'm eager to just jump right in. You know me, I don't need all the extra stuff. Let's just get right to it.
Let's do it.
So the actual definition tonight for Ujima is to build and maintain our community together and make our community's problems our problems and solve them together. That's a lot. That's a lot. And I just want to unpack that a little bit with you and talk about what that definition actually means to you.
Okay. I truly believe, thank you first of all, for having me here. I'm excited to be here tonight. I think that we have so many different challenges and problems in our community. But to just kind of narrow our focus right now on just education, right? We don't know what we don't know. And I feel like sometimes we have to do the work independently so that we can help our community. All right. So I took it upon myself to go and study and take my exam to get my life and health insurance license with the state of North Carolina so that I could be informed, so that I could also help families. So it's not just about me, it's about my community, because so many of us are uneducated, misinformed, or just not knowledgeable about things that we should know. Right. In the age of Google and the age of AI, we have things right at our fingertips, but sometimes we just are misinformed and just don't have the information that we need. And so the collective work and responsibility is taking that information back to my community so that we can be informed and make better decisions that are not just impacting the now, but our legacy, our futures, right? So I'm a grandma, aka Gigi. So as I'm thinking about my grandbaby and I'm thinking about my future, what does that look like, right? So I want my family to be healthy when I'm not here. I want them to be whole if I'm not here, and I want them to be financially taken care of. Grief is already hard, right? But when you are, broken and impoverished and dealing with grief, it makes it harder. And so I think part of that collective work is just being responsible, being informed, so that we can start making better decisions to impact our whole community and not just one household.
You're so right about that. And when we talk about the community as a whole, it's easy to stop with this thought that your community is just who lives adjacent to you, like who's in the next house, who's across the street, who's in the neighborhood kind of thing. But when I think about communities, I'm thinking about the women in my chapter in my sorority. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking about the friends and family members who are at my church. I'm thinking about community in terms of the different groups and silos that we find ourselves in. And I think an expansive idea of what community actually looks like is something that we are going to have to come around to.
Agree.
So who are some of the communities that you are thinking about when you're thinking about these legacies?
Well, I'm definitely thinking about my immediate family. Let's start there, right? Mm-hmm. So my kids, my grandbaby, my children, my mom, my siblings. But on a larger scale, my sorority, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, And I'm thinking about my chapter, Kwanzaa Zeta in Johnson County. So what does that look like? If I'm not here, maybe I can contribute financially to the scholarship fund. That scholarship fund can help students get into college or fund their education, right? So that's a small part of that community. Community could be supporting our local school systems in different ways, right? It could be a part of church. It could be a part of us. There's so many branches of community that it helps us to be expansive in our thinking, like to move just beyond, I call it our living room, so to speak. All right, community is big. It could be, and it doesn't just have to be your HOA community. Like when community can be large, and it could be your county, Wake County, right? It could be Johnson County. It could be the state of North Carolina. It could be so many different things. But when you're thinking about community, I really think it requires some inner work, like to cause you to really think about who has been impacted by the work that I do and who has impacted me. That's community. It could be my doctor's office. That's a part of my community, right? Going to get my teeth cleaned. That's a part of community, right? So like pouring back into your community in different ways is important.
Absolutely. When I think about community, one thing that comes to mind is all these Facebook groups. You remember Facebook groups?
Yes.
Right. I'm in a Black Girls Who Knit Facebook group. Like that's a community for me.
It is.
And what I have found is like the women in that community have such commonality, and they're spread out globally, but there's still so much alignment in what we do and what we find joy in, and there's just this sensibility that is shared in that community, and even down to the ways that they serve. Like lots of those ladies knit and crochet for the local children's hospitals, the NICU units, little pieces to keep the babies and those preemies warm. A lot of them take on projects by other women who knit or crochet that have passed away and left projects half finished. They actually collect those from the family, find those patterns, finish those items, and return. Like there's such a heart of service in these women. And I just am scrolling through sometimes and it brings a tear to the eye when you go, oh, wow, that's not something that I would have even thought of. But here it is. And it's another example of how I can jump in and serve in my community as well.
So I hear you saying community is really about the act of service for our local brother and our local sister, right? Our elders. So that looks different in different pockets of community, but it's still an act of service, and not just doing that work alone, but doing it together as community.
That's right. Because I can only knit so fast.
Correct.
I can only crochet that little beanie so fast. But if there are 5, 6, 10, 20, 100 women who are working together and doing that, then there's a multiplication of that effort, which leads
absolutely
us to a whole new place. I love that. So tell me a little bit about your experience with Kwanzaa in general. Like, what's your history? Have you celebrated before? Is it something that has been in your life for a while, or are you new to the party?
I'm partially new and partially not. My dad was a pillar in my life. God bless the dead. But he introduced me to Kwanzaa. And if you know me, as your friend, I am very charismatic. And I think I inherited that from him. So I was introduced to Kwanzaa by my dad. And he would put on the brightest red pinstripe 3-piece suit you can find with the matching gator shoes and the bow tie. And we went down to our local gymnasium where we had our Kwanzaa service. And that's when I was introduced to Kwanzaa. We still had Christmas going on in the house, but my dad wanted to make sure he instilled that into us. So we had a chance to learn about the principles of Kwanzaa. We got to be introduced to some African drummers. That was pretty cool. And we got to be introduced to some of the music that was there and just some of the local business leaders and business owners that were there to kind of just celebrate Kwanzaa in that particular way. But as I got older, now I'm tapping on the age of 40, I'm learning that Kwanzaa is something that is a part of me every day and not just solely exclusive to the holiday of Kwanzaa. So that's something I'm excited about as I expand my own way of celebrating Kwanzaa. It's something that started small with my dad. That's something that is living now in my life.
I love that. Your experience sounds similar to mine. I had a very early experience with Kwanzaa, and it was a big splashy affair. It was like the event of the Christmas season for the Black folks in my area, and it meant getting in your very finest African attire. And you got to remember, this was a time when we didn't really have like African stuff on the racks at every location. It wasn't easy to find. Like, you had to go to a special location, or you had to get fabric and have it made. There was a seamstress involved, which meant early planning. There was a lot there. But that potluck dinner, the children coming together and being in charge of
Mhm.
the ceremony, the parents programmed everything for us and put it in our hands, but they gave us that responsibility. And I just remember those things having such an impact on me. And again, like you, when I grew up, when I returned to Kwanzaa, it was 2020. We were mid pandemic. We didn't know we were mid pandemic, but like we were actually in the early throes of it. And I knew that my family needed some light and some joy. I had to do something extra in that holiday season to just kind of keep everybody centered and uplifted. And Kwanzaa was the first thing that popped into my spirit. And I've been just deeply devoted to my practice since then. So it's been
And
exciting.
that's beautiful. I love that. And not to forget or exclude the storyteller. That was when I was introduced to the griot, right, in the community, and she would wear the African headscarf and do the dramatic storytelling, reading, and lighting of the candles and all that. And I just thought that was really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
And what a
And
wonderful way to be exposed to Kwanzaa.
exactly. And the let's not overlook the importance of the griot in our culture as a whole, overall. The griot is the keeper of the stories, of the records, of the history. The griot is not just for entertainment. That's
Correct.
how the story lands, and that's how you're able to um, keep the people's interest in the story and to get the kids engaged in what you're talking about. But the griot's job is so important. And I look around today and I'm like, okay, who are our griots? Where are our griots? Um, and I think it may be incumbent upon me to kind of take up that mantle and grow into that
Somebody will in
level.
the bloodline, because a lot of our elders are passing on. And
Mhm.
so as we kind of like want to preserve our family's heritage and legacy and those stories, sometimes you've been the chosen one to kind of be the keeper of those stories, to kind of keep
Mhm.
the family together.
Yeah, and the family is relying on the griot more than whether they know it or not. I've already become the auntie that keeps all the obituaries. Like I realized recently that that has fallen to me, and I thought it was weird when my grandmother was doing it, and when her sisters were they would call and say, "Did you go to the funeral today? Did you get an extra copy of the obituary? Okay, can I I'm gonna come over and get it right now." Like, I thought it was weird that they wanted these things, but I understand now that those were family trees, that those
Hmm.
were records of the community and the service that that person gave. And they tell a much deeper story than of just that one person. And so having access to those is, I think
It's valuable.
it's important.
it's, it's very
It is
valuable.
valuable is the right word for it, more than important. Because if we lose track of those things, then ooh, we're floating out at sea with no
and
anchor.
and in this age now that things are becoming digitized, so that's helping keep information as well.
Yep, that's the next step, to go through and digitize some of the older ones in that collection, because that paper gets fragile and the ink is
Correct.
wearing and those kinds of things, and you won't be able to read it clearly. So it's time to go in and really make use of technology in a smart way.
Yes.
I love that. So you talked about Kwanzaa showing up in your daily life. Now let's talk a little bit more about that,
Okay.
because it's Ujima night. But what else pops up for you in your life as you recognize and practice Kwanzaa 365?
Well, I think with Ujima, like being an educator, I spent a lot of time as an educator. This is year going on year
Mhm.
15 for me.
Hey.
And spending time growing as an educator, but also being amongst other educators where we're
Mhm.
building community, and we're understanding the importance of literacy. We're understanding the importance of financial literacy. And so it shows up for me in so many ways. If I can inspire another young person to go to school, to expand their education, to start their small business, to
Yeah.
um, go to hair school, help lay my edges, like, give me a line up, right? So if it's anything I can do to inspire our youth to kind of, go on and be great in our society, that's where Kwanzaa lives for me. It's
Mhm.
something I see every day. So even though I'm doing work, I'm not alone in that work, right? It takes a whole system and a whole group of people to really have a positive influence on our youth, because I'm getting on up there. One day I'm gonna be a senior citizen, right? And they're gonna be making decisions about my life, and they're gonna be leading the country, leading the world. So I think it's such an honor to be able to have that collective work with so many educators that I see every day and that I work with, to help grow our youth. It's much needed. And so that shows up for me every day.
I love that. And I have to agree because, you know, the I can attest to your collective work and your use of the collective and engagement of the collective, because we taught in the same building, and I'm telling you, to know that this sister was just an arm's reach from me, whether I needed advice, whether I needed someone to just look over materials, or whether I just needed a bathroom break, right? It didn't matter, because we understood that we were doing this together. We were building and engaging that ecosystem in order to impact kids' lives. And I'm grateful that I have a different position in that ecosystem now.
Oh yeah.
Not in the classroom, but I feel like I'm in a place where I can help families and communities and kids. I feel like my reach is a little broader, and I'm able to take some of those skills and some of the things that I learned there, and just transfer them. Because again, even though they're not my kids, they are part of the collective. And, we really have to keep that in mind when we think of Ujima. This is the work part. It's not the
Yes.
Umoja unity part. The unity part is where we all kind of get on the same page and have some similar ideas about things. Um, on night one, we talked about the fact that unity is not uniformity, and we don't have to be
Oh,
in
that's good. That's
we
good.
don't have to be in lockstep, but we have to have the same ideas about things. And this Ujima part is where we really get together and say, okay, I'm going to teach a class Saturday morning on X, Y, or Z, or I'm going to host a master class online. Y'all, it's free. Y'all just come. I feel like that's the place where I have found myself. And anytime that there's an educator who needs my support, like I'm ready to like hop on and jump in with whatever I can.
Once an educator and always an educator. I think also I feel like with Kwanzaa self-determination, like I am a very driven person. I always have been. You can ask my mama.
I know that's
I'm
right.
I am working on degree number 4, so I've always been determined to
Wait, wait,
be
wait,
my
wait.
best.
We can't leave that one hanging.
It's over there.
Let's number the degrees, because we're gonna put some respect on that.
Okay. So
Come on.
numero uno, bachelor's of arts degree in English from Elizabeth City State University, Viking Pride. I have my master's degree of science and higher education in college leadership from Kaplan University. That's number 2.
Mhm.
Number 3, educational specialist in K through 12 leadership from Grand Canyon University.
Mhm.
And last but not least, I'm working on my master's of school administration right now at Central Eagle Pride, to go back to school to be a principal.
I love that. And how many of those degrees are from HBCUs?
2, at
Really?
least 2 of them.
We're running at 50%. We're running at
I,
50%.
I love it. I wouldn't change my experience for the world. But that shows up for me because that self-determination, the drive, and it's not easy. It's a lot of work, a lot of reading, a lot of writing, a lot of research, a lot of community work. It's a lot. but I take pride in it so that I can do the collective work, right? And so
Exactly.
I have to do my part so that I can have a positive influence on my community so that we can do what we have to do to grow, to be efficient, and reliant on each other. I feel like we have to start somewhere. And so for me, it was starting with self determination, knowing that I can do anything I put my mind to. I
Mhm.
just got to stay focused and get it done.
And staying focused is that's key to anything that we need to do. But let's talk about one of these certifications that I know you also have in your back
Okay.
pocket too. Your coaching certification in cognitive
Yes.
coaching. That
Yes.
is something that I really feel like our community is going to need some coaching in the days to come. Um,
Absolutely.
we are in a time and place where the world is changing,
It is.
and we are going to have to do some things very specifically to keep up with that and to get ahead of where things are trending. So, talk to me a little bit about that cognitive coaching certification and how important that is going to be to working with the collective as well.
Cognitive coaching has changed my life as a
Mhm.
professional, but also personally. I think it helps me to slow down and truly think about your thinking,
Mhm.
which is a craft in itself,
Mhm.
and to be able to, I call it sit in your thinking
Yeah.
and rely on you and your intuition. You have the resources that you need to get out of, I call it your stuckedness in your mind, or in your life. And sometimes you need a coach to kind of help you to navigate through that, right? So I have the mental maps. I kind of know where I want you to go, but I want you to tap into your research internally to get there. Now, if you are struggling, and maybe you don't feel like you don't have necessarily those, um, inner workings to tap into, then me as a coach, then I can kind of refer you to the supports that you need. And as a coach, my job is to help you to think about your thinking, but then it gets a little deeper. And when you start having some deep stuff, I'm gonna refer you to a therapist, okay? Somebody who went to school a little bit longer than I did. But cognitive coaching really helps me to help my people to think about everything that you do, think about why you're doing it,
Yeah.
um, and come up with smart goals that you feel that are attainable that you can reach. But you everything starts with the mind. I think we talked about that earlier. Everything starts with the seed of thought,
Yeah.
right? And then kind of just roll from there. So it's so important to slow down just a little bit and really think, and come up with a plan on whatever that goal is that you have. But it starts with thinking, and then we work from there.
And I think that's so important because very often we are coached in the opposite. We are conditioned to just like move. Okay, well we got to go. All right, well let's just start doing something, and then but if we really slowed down and worked through the metacognition, really worked through how we are thinking about things, and it also leans into that narrative around Black people not getting therapy, for some of the traumas that we have endured and some of the things that we find ourselves, the situations that we find ourselves in on a daily basis. Those are significant things, and
Mhm.
to rush through those things and feel like we have to just continually churn out this false productivity. I love the fact that you are trained in a methodology that gets folks to slow down and actually think about what they're doing, what they could be doing, and how to approach some of these things.
And a lot of times I can tell what people believe by what they say. So sometimes just let people talk. Just let people talk. And whatever is going on in that moment, maybe it's a misbelief. Maybe they truly believe it. Maybe it's a core value, but we won't know until we have those conversations to kind of move the conversation forward to get to a place where we can either plan, come up with a solution, whatever that solution may be. But that's part of that work.
I love that thought too, and I'm wondering um, if there is opportunity for us to go beyond who we think our immediate community is in some of these conversations. Is there value in having some of these conversations with folks outside of what you would typically think of as your community?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I feel like it's so necessary to, um, allow opportunities to think and process, processing time, um, and you can learn a lot about just people just through behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
What you're saying, what are you doing, what patterns, is this a repeated pattern of behaviors, right? You can learn, there's a little psychology one-on-one being thrown in there, but cognitive coaching is just brilliant, and it can extend to any community. It doesn't have to be selective to just teachers or educators. It can be used in your sorority. It can be used with ministry. It can be used for leadership. So when you are trying to guide a team,
Yeah.
right, you're dealing with
Mm-hmm.
people, right, that cognitive coaching can be helpful because you are at the top as a leader. Where are you leading your team? If you don't know where you're going, then where the team going, right? So
Right.
that kind of coaching could be very, very helpful.
And I think that in our culture, we are taught reverence for our leaders and reverence for our elders, and I believe in that wholeheartedly. But I also believe that some of our elders and some of our leaders are in need of some of this cognitive coaching because they've lost sight of what should be happening, or they're not totally clear about where they're going and how they're leading. So I think that there is space for everyone to embrace these kinds of things, and to just be open to the fact that there's more for me to learn.
And sometimes people are not open right away, right? Some people are not flexible in their thinking. They are
Mhm.
comfortable where they
Mhm.
are. They are not interested in moving because they're comfortable, right? So sometimes that inability to be flexible can
Mhm.
be harmful, as it keeps you stunned in your growth. So it takes time. It doesn't always happen in one night. I think we talked about that before. One person plants a seed, somebody else waters, right? So I may just drop a gem or a question and walk away, and I might see you 6 months from now and come back and ask you the same question again. So it's a cycle. It's
Yeah,
not a one-time solution. It's a constant cycle of checking in, making sure you are making progress. If you're not making progress, let's have conversations about why we're not having progress, right? It's a cycle. So it's a continuum, but you have to be willing. But if you're not willing, sometimes you just drop a seed and walk away. Somebody else will water.
that's it. That's it. And I think also to know that there is um, space for patience.
A lot
We
of
can,
patience.
we can be very impatient as a people, as a collective, as a group. We can see a thing and want a thing and move on a thing, and then we're like, okay, go. We want the magic results. We want the magic to happen quickly, and that transformation to just like all of a sudden be there. So what I hear you saying is that sometimes there is some patience um, to
Yes.
apply, and we might have to wait for that thing to turn over and come back again and revisit it.
And sometimes it's okay to walk away, to say, well, thank you for your time, and walk away. That might be the answer. I don't have all the answers as a coach, as a consultant. I don't have all the answers, and sometimes I have to be okay with walking away. I think we talked about previously, like if I'm just now starting my garden and I put my little seed in the ground, I want some collard greens like yesterday. Well, I got to give it time for to have a harvest. There's no such thing as picking the harvest that hasn't even grown yet. Like you
That's right.
have to give it time.
That's right. And we have to remember that like when you plant a seed, staying with this analogy, when you plant a seed, it grows downward first. The roots grow first. And that
Yes.
has to be the case because if you got blooms before you had roots, then them things would blow away, wash away in the first rain. Like they would have nothing to anchor them.
Ain't anchored nowhere.
They anchored nowhere. And so I think the necessity of patience in some of these processes as we work together is critical because people
Absolutely.
tend to really just, well, I elected you last year and you haven't built the highway to two towns over yet. So what's the holdup? You know, there's just a million examples of where like, okay, but let's just be patient. And I think also have you talked about being misinformed earlier or
Hmm.
uninformed. I think some of that comes into play too. Um, Sometimes folks just don't understand the rules, the structures, the systems that are in place.
Hmm.
Um, and it's hard to show up for your people when you don't have that knowledge, when you don't have that ability to access that system and work through it.
Correct. I think that's why for me education is so important, even beyond the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Being educated about health insurance, life insurance, your voting rights, the Constitution, right? Just being educated at large is being informed, and truly comprehend and be able to think critically about what it is that's in front of you or what's happening. And that's the work that I do every day as an educator. But beyond the classrooms, education is just important for our
So let's
community.
talk about some of that education that needs to happen specifically around health insurance, because part of this definition for Ujima talks about your brothers and sisters' problems being your own. Um, can we talk about some of the problems that we encounter when people pass away, unexpectedly or not? Our community tends to face some issues that are maybe not as prevalent in other communities, and I think some of that stems with not being aware of how much it actually costs to bury someone, how much it costs to take care of someone's final expenses, and some of the things that are in place that, again, being uninformed or misinformed can cost us monetarily, and can also cost us in terms of the emotional toll that's placed on us. So let's just talk a little bit about insurance and how important it is for us to embrace the fact that, like, we got to get Big Mama some chance.
Correct. I think sometimes people are afraid to talk about things that they are afraid of. So when you talk about
Ooh.
death, right, that seems kind of scary, it's uncomfortable, it's
Mhm.
very eerie for some people. But I also think it's important to be informed, have those uncomfortable conversations
Mhm.
now, about what you want to see happen with you if you were to pass, right? Do you want to be buried? Do you want to be cremated? Turn me into a tree, blow me over in the water in Jamaica somewhere, right? Like those are important conversations to have. But if someone so chooses to say they want to be buried, well, what does that look like, right? On average, and we're talking about like bare minimum
Mhm.
funeral service is going to run anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 minimum, right?
Mhm.
And we talking like pine box casket, like the cheapest casket possible, right?
The
Maybe
Costco
your
casket.
maybe your pastor let you use the church, maybe the organist will play for you, right? And I don't say that to make fun of or light of
Mhm.
anything like that, but it's when people are uncomfortable, they don't want to talk about those things. But how
Right.
much is it going to cost, right, to have the celebration that you want to celebrate your life, right? Because
Right.
that's what we like to say. Well, it's a homegoing celebration, right? It's not a. So if we having a homegrown celebration, and and I want
And, and if you want to go in style.
if you want to go in style and you want to hire Patty LaBelle to sing over you or whatever it is that you want to do, that's going to cost money, right? And so I think it's so important to have those conversations with your family members now, right? And then having things and policies in place. And when I say be informed, it's better to get a policy when you're younger because it's going to be more affordable, right?
Mm-hmm.
The
Yep.
younger you are, the more affordable it is. By the time you realize that Big Mama needs some insurance, right? And Big Mama's like 60, 70 years old, it's going to be costly, right? And so there are options. I'm not saying that they're not options, but it's just when you are informed, you can make better decisions. You can plan a little bit better because you have the information that you need to be intentional about
Mm-hmm.
what you want and not necessarily what you have to get like leftover. Like,
That's right.
a
Because
GoFundMe is not an insurance policy. It's nice that it's there, right? But it's not. And I get it
well,
because
and I will say also there are some situations where you need a GoFundMe in addition
in
to
addition to,
whatever is already put aside.
correct,
I've encountered a tragedy in my life, and you needed the GoFundMe in addition to good chance that was already in place.
correct.
Um, and for my friends watching who don't know what chance is, that is insurance. Insurance.
A
There is
life insurance policy.
right. And so there's a lot there to unpack around the GoFundMe's and the fish plates and the T-shirts and the
Hey, we did what we had to do. I mean, you did what you had to do. But when you have the information in front of you, you can make better decisions because you have information.
absolutely. And when you make those decisions and when you have those policies, disclosing them to your family, because it's a tragedy to like have this stuff and don't nobody know it's there
And then we're flipping over shoe
or how to
boxes and we
access it.
uplifting mattresses and right. So that's the conversation with trust and will and estate planning, right? Like
Mhm.
that's a whole nother conversation for another episode,
And
but that's
and
a part of the work.
an estate is not a mansion with horses, and an estate is everything that comprises your personal um what you own and what you've built, your
Hmm.
personal legacy. And people feel like if they don't own a 22-bedroom mansion in the English countryside with horses and that they don't qualify, that they don't have an estate. And
Hmm.
that's just not the case. Everything you have makes up your estate.
I think that goes back. I think as educators, we do it all the time, challenging assumptions, where you just
Mhm.
assume that because you don't have your mansion or that you don't have your vehicle of your choice, your dream car, that you don't have an estate, but you do. All right. So it's a matter of what do you want to see happen to your belongings, your possessions, your estate once you pass, and what are you willing to do to protect it, to keep it in your family, right? So
Right.
that it's not all lost. Those are just sometimes uncomfortable conversations that have
Mhm.
to happen, but I know it's very uncomfortable. And so I think people just kind of stray away from things that make them uncomfortable.
Well, and I think something that could make it more comfortable is having that conversation as a collective, having that
Correct.
conversation in community. It can be tough for you to sit across the desk one on one with someone and have to hammer that out. But when you're sitting in a group and everyone is raising these thoughts or raising these questions in a safe space, right? In a space where they are free to inquire openly and get the information that they need, and where they can also share, because there may be some folks who have some thoughts and ideas that other folks have not even approached in their mind. um,
Correct.
and I think doing these kinds of things in community is valuable also.
It is extremely valuable. Even something as simple as having you have your primary beneficiary and your contingent beneficiary. If anything happens to your primary, who's next in line? Like we don't talk about that, right? So that's a part of that being informed and educated piece. And then there's also living benefits. You
Yeah.
don't if death scares you, which I know sometimes it does, well, you're still alive. You can use your benefits while you're alive, but are you aware of how to use them and when you can use them, right? So it's multiple opportunities for conversations and planning, and you just need somebody who is willing to help you do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that we don't always know who those people are in our communities, right? Because most people would not assume that the local teacher is also an expert in health and life insurance. That
Hmm.
would not be something that would be widely known. And so I think spotting folks and knowing who among the collective has these levels of expertise and these levels of speciality. Did I say
Hmm.
specificity?
Specializations is fine. It's fine.
Specialization, all that. See, she's the
All the
English
things close enough.
teacher. But to know that you have someone in the community that you can go to or you can talk to, I just don't think sometimes we know where all of the resources are or who all of the resources are.
Oh yeah. So I'm more than happy to have conversations with families. I can be reached online and I'll share all that information with you. But it's so important to have those conversations now while
Yeah.
you are while you are healthy and well. There may be a day where you are not well and you can't speak for yourself, right? And it's so important to have paperwork in place so that decisions are not being made for you on your behalf, right? Because you took the time while you were healthy and well to go ahead and have planning in place. Whether that's short-term disability, and again, people always just think it's a burial policy. We're not always talking about burial policies. You're still alive, right? So there's some living benefits that you can tap into if you need to, but it's so important. Some people say, well, insurance is a scam. Insurance is not a scam, right? So that's that whole misinformation. It's a scam until you need it, right? So it's
Right.
so important to have things in place before you get sick, before you get injured. It's important to have those things in place. So it's important to have those healthy conversations now and playing with intentionality now, and be realistic. Right? We spend money on what we want to spend money on. So people say, "Oh, I don't want to pay that every month." Huh? We spend money on what we want to spend money on.
That's
No?
it.
Guilty. Breezy Bowl, yes, was there, right? Beyonce had her concert. People were spending mortgage payments to get to the concert, right? We spend money on what we want to spend money on, right? So it's important for us to have conversations and start thinking about value beyond just lived experiences. Like, I love a good concert, but also thinking about legacy and financial fortitude is important.
Yep. I want my baby to be able to pick up and go to whoever is I don't even know who that might be in when she's grown and ready to start going out on these adventures. I don't want her to even have to think about it. Like, I'm
But
going.
what if we use the inheritance to focus on mental health? She can go and get counseling because the money is there for her to take care of her mental health. Like, that's a part of that collective work. But it starts with an individual and it grows into community, right?
You're
So
right.
upholding one another. So what would be the impact of our families in our communities having insurance and could actually go get mental health support as they are grieving? What will be the long-term effects of that, of having access to that level of care?
Say that. Say that. Um, and not only that, but having having insurance in place and having enough insurance in place takes such a mental load off the grief and
Mm-hmm.
allows you to sit back and feel instead of being in fix it mode.
Correct.
And
And I think the key word there was enough, right?
enough.
So mortgage protection is a thing where you can have a policy that covers the mortgage. You don't have to worry about the mortgage because the policy is going to go ahead and take care of that, and so that you can just live your life and focus on other things. So it's not just a burial policy where we always talk about paying for the funeral, right? So having more than enough or having enough, you have to factor in to your debts that you owe,
Right.
and the lifestyle that you're living. So that it's important to have those conversations. And sometimes you got to let people that's in your circle be in your business a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit for planning
I'm
purposes.
glad you said that. I'm glad you said that because I ran across something the other day. It was a video, and the video brought me to tears because it brought something home for me. It opened up a place of grieving for me. I lost my best friend not long ago, and this woman had recently lost her best friend. And the video was just simply sharing that, I just did my best friend the last favor that I'll ever do for her. I went to her house and I got her box full of naughty toys because we agreed early on that we would do that for each other if the time ever came that one of us was not here. And it was such a silly thing for her to have shared online, but at the same time, it was such a real thing because having been in a position where I had to go into my best friend's house and find things and get things and do things, there was a level of comfort there that I could be comfortable, that between myself and the two other ladies, who we are all best sister friends now. We've
Mm-hmm.
bonded over the worst possible thing. But we were able to go in and do that because we were just enough in each other's business to know, oh, she keeps that X, Y, or Z, or she
Mm-hmm.
placed that here, or I know exactly where that is. I'll grab that. Those are the kinds of conversations that I'm just not sure that ladies maybe are having as girlfriends. I'm not sure if that's a thing. I don't know if the fellas single fellas are having those conversations with their homeboys. Like, is your if and even if you don't pass away, if you get sick and you're in the hospital and you're stranded and you need somebody to bring you clean underwear, who is that person in
Mm-hmm.
your collective, in your community? Who can you pick up the phone and say, girl, I need you to bring me some draws? Who is that?
Right.
And if you don't have that person, how is it that you have not been developing those kinds of relationships? Because that I would venture to say takes a different level of, that's not your passive friendship or your homie at work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's somebody who's sharing a piece of your life. And I don't know that we are really, as a community, building those kinds of relationships anymore.
I think having these conversations now is a part of that work. People don't know what they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And we've come, well, I can speak for myself. I come from a legacy of a family where everybody won't know your business. Like, even family members to this day still don't know people business. They don't passed on to be with Jesus 30, 40 years ago and still don't know people business, right? It wasn't normalized or it wasn't modeled before us. So I think it's important to have those conversations now. And what that looks like for each household is going to be completely different. But I
Yeah.
think starting these conversations now is a start.
And I think also we're saying conversations. We keep saying talk to each other and have these conversations. I'm going to go a step further and ask you to write something down or type you a little document or Google Doc and put it on a flash drive. Um, there's got to be some solid documentation to some of the things that are being
Mm-hmm.
said, because we know that discrepancies arise, and one person's recollection is not necessarily somebody else's.
Mm-hmm.
um, but I think in
Living
conversation,
wills, trust, all of the things. Those are
all the
necessary.
things, all the things, and it's not overkill. I think that's the other thing. I think that we as a people tend to think, oh, that's overkill, that's too much, we don't need all of that. For this little stuff I got, they can just blah blah blah. But you're not taking into account the stress and the turmoil that throws everybody else into.
Mm-hmm. But that goes back to that community work. When you remove yourself, stop being so individualistic and think about community, then you start thinking, how is that going to impact the
Yeah.
extension of me, right? That's why I like to call it community. It's an extension of you. How's that going to impact those
Ooh,
around me?
that's good. I love that. Community is an extension of you. And I think yeah, I think if people really took that to heart, you would not want to. And again, the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You wouldn't want to be stuck in that position. And so thinking
But
ahead and taking care of those things.
we always talk about, like, the scripture says love your neighbor as you love yourself, but do we truly love ourselves to even have those conversations, right? So
Ooh,
we gotta stop and really value who we are and what we bring to the world, and just value who we are, not necessarily what you can do for me. But when you truly value who you are, then things that you possess um seem so much more important, because you value who you are and other people's lives, not just yourself. Like,
that's right.
you're really being introspective.
That's right. And the work starts on the inside in order for it to radiate outward.
Absolutely.
We don't get if we don't get self pulled together, then all the rest of it is all for naught. I just, ooh, that's good. So please, please, friends, make these decisions, have the conversations, write them down somewhere, get you a policy, encourage others to get a policy, um, and just be aware that the termination of your life is not the end of that community,
Mm-hmm.
right? That community is going to go beyond you as an individual. And so, that is impactful to that community. That is impactful to the people who love you and who want the best for you. And it takes a little bit of discomfort now for everybody else to have a different level of comfort later on.
Agreed.
Oh, that's beautiful. All right. Can I steer us around one
Yeah.
more river bend? Okay. So every year, the founder of Kwanzaa, Dr. Milana Karenga, who is still with us, um, gives a theme for the year. And the theme for this Kwanzaa is a doozy. Last year's was as well. It's kind of similar, but it should be, in light of the fact that the world we are living in. I I don't know. I don't know. I'm still working out my 2026 bingo card. Um, but the theme is pr- practicing the seven principles in dimly lit times, lifting up the light, hurrying the dawn. There's a lot there. It's deep and poetic, but I think it is hitting on all the things that it needs to. And I just want to let us have a little bit of conversation about that theme and where that theme is driving us as we go into the new year. Um, what does that actually mean? What does that
I
actually?
need you to I need you to say that one more time because that was beautiful and that was heavy. It was heavy.
Yes, it
I need
is.
you to say that one more time for me.
All right, here we go. Are you ready? Practicing the seven principles in dimly lit times,
Hmm.
lifting up the light, hurrying the dawn.
I like that.
Ooh,
I
it
like that. I just needed a moment. That was like, oh wow, that's beautiful.
take the
But it,
time
wa-
that
it but
you
it but
need.
it was heavy,
Yeah.
right? And in dimly lit times. That means
Hmm.
that there is some light, right? But that we have some shadows as well that is not making our light as bright as it would be. I
Hmm.
always so like to think that the light is also kind of like a sign of hope, right? It's
Mm,
there. It's there. It's still there, but it's dim, right?
that's it.
And so I feel like we as a collective have to continue to work together to uplift one another, and grow as people so that that light can get brighter in dim times, right?
Hmm.
It's just kind of like I live in the country. It's dark out here, right? If you don't put no lights on,
Girl,
you
yes, you
can't see
do.
nothing, right? All right. So we got some little lights out here that helps. And with that being said, just one small light makes all the difference in the world. So imagine as a collective having that bright light and that positivity in our communities, how much more that can be impactful on our communities.
I love that. One small light makes all the difference in the world. That's beautiful. I am struck, and I think I said this on maybe night one. I'm struck by the fact that he leads with practicing the seven principles.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there it is. Like, we, there's a lot of conversation as I doom scroll on social media.
Mm-hmm.
I find myself on social media a lot because I'm posting and putting things out, but at the same time, I'm consuming quite a bit also. And when I go through on social media, there's a lot of conversation about I don't know how we're gonna do this. I don't know how we're gonna. Well, this happened today, and I don't know how we're gonna blah 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 blah. And I think the answer is right there at the beginning of this theme: practicing the
Mm-hmm.
seven principles, starting with umoja and unifying the people, doing the work of Kuji Chagulia, determining for ourselves who we will be, and then running that down. Doing the
Mm-hmm.
work of Ujima, the collective work, and keeping in mind that we are all in this together. There's no one of us that is going to escape this and leave the rest behind. That's it's just not a reality. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then going into Ujama and Nia and Kaumba and Imani and all the other nights, these are the principles, the timeless and universal ways of being that are going to lead us through these dimly lit times, that are going to be our light in these dimly lit times.
Mm-hmm. I love
It's,
that.
ooh, I like that you referred to it as heavy because that's what the year has felt like. It has felt heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it has felt like as hard as you try, here comes one more thing. Here comes one more thing. It feels like a pylon, right? And I know that I have struggled this year. I have had some really great moments. I've had some really good things happen, but I have also had to fight through some stuff this year, and I have leaned on my Kwanzaa practice to kind of illuminate things and to help lead me forward.
I love that. And I know that to be true. Like, and you're not just saying that because we're here together now, right?
Mhm.
It's something that you truly live. And I try my best to live every day. because the work that I do not only impacts me, but others. And so that I really do try my best to practice these truths every day.
I mean, you got folks depending on you right down to the puppy. I say puppy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know. I know
Puppies, you know.
the puppies are not puppies, but when we really think about all the folks who um, we are connected to and all the ways that we are connected to them, practicing Kwanzaa seems to me like the responsible thing to do. It seems like
Hmm.
the thing that will not just make me a role model or make me a leader, but like that will allow me to be the person that others can depend on, can
So
rely.
that you can show up as yourself 100%, not 95%, but 100%. Somebody shared something with me. I always say, you can't pour from an empty cup. And I was challenged. You shouldn't be pouring from that cup in the first place. That's your cup. we
Ooh,
pour we pour from the overflow, right? And I was like, oh,
ooh.
okay, I stand to be corrected. I sit in that for a little bit, and I had to meditate on that, and that was so profound, right? So as I'm doing the work of community, I can only pour from the overflow, right? So that I can do the work, because my community is an extension of me, but that requires me doing the inward work, right? Taking care of myself so that I can continue to be there for people who need me.
I that one struck me clean between the eyes. I'm gonna sit down and be quiet somewhere. We have just about reached our time anyway. Kendall, give us a few closing thoughts about your Kwanzaa practice, your wish for our community at Kwanzaa time, anything at all you'd like to share with us.
I love this time of the year as we get to, not only eat good foods and pour out libations for our ancestors, but I also want us to um, take this time to reflect as we move forward into 2026, and just be reminded of the principles of Kwanzaa as we roll into 2026, and let it show up in every day, in every way, in some type of way, shape, form, or fashion, whatever that may look like for you, and continue to live your best life. But you cannot pour into others if there's nothing there. Take care of self so that you can continue to embrace your community, which is an extension of you.
That is beautiful. I'm so glad that we got a chance to get together and have this
Yay!
conversation. This has been a minute in the making. From the time that I met Kendall, I was like, she might be interesting to have as a guest at some point. And here we are. We have arrived.
Yay!
We did it.
Thank you
Um,
for having me.
Absolutely. Again, friends, help me thank Kendle Sykes-Suber for her expertise and her knowledge this evening. You will be seeing her information here in just a second as we close out. But that's our program. Be sure to join us tomorrow night as we get into night 4 talking about Ujama. I'm so excited and grateful that you all have spent this hour with us. And I just want to say to you, happy Kwanzaa and Hariza Kwanzaa. May your Kwanzaa be blessed.
All
Good night,
right.
everybody.
Bye.
Candles burning bright tonight. 7 candles, warming hope inside. Hands together, hearts aligned. Kwanzaa whispers, it's our time. Harvest songs and stories told. Ancestors' wisdom, strong and bold. Drum beats echo, voices rise. Unity beneath the sky.